Hello, I'm Liz Nelson, Director of Human Rights and Tax Justice at the Tax Justice Network and one of the conference organisers. Before I hand over to a brief to our three partners for a brief introduction and to talk a little bit about the theme of this year's conference, I just wanted to guide you through a bit of housekeeping. So first of all, interpretation. We have live interpreters from English to Spanish and vice versa throughout the conference. And so to access this, you'll see a red link on each of the session pages, just under the information section. So click on that link and the audio will open in a second browser window. Select the language you want to hear and you're all set to go. You may need to mute the original audio if it doesn't automatically happen. We've chosen to host this event through this platform to try and create and be a bit more creative about the ways that you can all participate together in our new world of virtual events. And you'll see there are many ways to interact with other participants. And in each session, you can leave comments and questions for speakers in those sessions. There's also a dedicated discussion section that will open throughout the conference where you can chat more generally with other participants. Just click on the discussions button in the top menu and you'll see we have a general chat room as well as a few thematic chat rooms, and we hope people engage in those in further conversations here. So to get most out of the platform, we suggest you set up your profile, add a photograph so people can see you, engage, and any details you'd like to share. You can access this by clicking on the top right-hand corner of your screen, and you can engage with other attendees then by clicking the attendees link on the top of the menu and setting your profile to visible. That way you can meet and chat with others. Now, if you have any questions, and I've rattled through that too quickly, just go to the discussions link and you'll see we have a chat room set up where you can leave questions for the organisers. Finally, we've live tweeting the event, and please share your comments on Twitter using the hashtag TJN21. So that's it from me now. I'm going to hand over first to Prem Sikka, Lord Prem Sikka, member of the House of Lords in the UK, a long-time TJN senior advisor and a long supporter of this conference. And also that followed by Anastasia, Nesvetailova, Anastasia, from City University. And finally from Jeannie Manipon from Asia Pacific People's Movement for Debt and Development. So Prem, over to you, and I'll go on mute.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this virtual conference co-organized by the Association for Accountancy and Business Affairs, the City University of London, the Tax Justice Network, and the Tax and Gender Working Group of the Global Alliance for Tax Justice. We are all greatly indebted to the organizing team for the hard work in putting together this conference. The COVID pandemic has highlighted the need for tax justice more than ever before. Hundreds and thousands of poor people and workers on low wages have died. Their vulnerability is exacerbated by poor public services, poor housing, poor food, and poor support services. The deaths are totally avoidable and require complete redistribution of income and wealth. We cannot return to the past, which has been marked by huge inequalities. Taxation policies are a key means of redistributing income and wealth and advancing human rights, which is a key theme of this conference. We, as usual, face enormous challenges, especially as we are surrounded by organized tax avoidance and regressive policies pursued by many countries. In the UK here, the poorest 10% of households pay 47.6% of their income in direct and indirect taxes, compared to 33.5% by the richest 10% of the households. That is unacceptable. Unsurprisingly, the UK's 6 richest people control as much wealth as the poorest 13 million, or 100 richest people have as much wealth as the poorest 18 million. The richest 10% of households hold 44% of all UK wealth. The poorest 50% just own 9%. Unsurprisingly, they are unable to cope with disasters, pandemics, and they suffer disproportionately. And we can change all that. The patterns which I have described in the UK exist in other countries too. So we need coordinated effort to advance human rights and human welfare. The tax justice community has always been a beacon of hope, and this conference is no exception. We are fortunate really to have so many highly respected, qualified, famous speakers and thought-provoking papers for this particular conference. Another world is always possible, and together we can make that vital difference to give everyone an opportunity to live a fulfilling life. I look forward to all the sessions of this conference, and I commend them all to you. These conferences are also an opportunity to renew old friendships and make some new friends as well. They are also an opportunity to recognize and honor the contribution of our many heroes and heroines who, against all the odds, have changed the world that we live in. This year, we have 2 winners of the AAB and TJN awards for serving tax justice and the public interest. It is often said that there is a woman behind every successful organization and campaign. That much is true. This year's award goes to Kathy Cross, who from the right beginning of the TJN has played a leading role in promoting tax justice in numerous ways. We salute you, Kathy, for your compassion and humanity, and I hope to catch up with you soon to give you this award. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for Kathy Cross, and let there be a virtual applause for Kathy. The second award, also given in recognition for the service, humanity, and compassion, is to James Henry. James Henry has again been a key supporter and promoter of tax justice right from the beginning. His seminal work, The Price of Offshore, has been an absolute game changer and has taken the lid off the wealth stashed away in tax havens by a rich few to enable them to dodge taxes. We salute you, James, for your compassion and humanity, and I hope to catch up with you soon to give you this award. Again, let there be a virtual applause for James and Kathy. Well, thank you all very much. I will now pass you over to Anastasia for the next part of this welcome, and I look forward to maybe catching up with the rest of you in the chat rooms and elsewhere during the conference. Thank you all for joining us.
Is it okay for me to speak? Thank you, Prem, very much. It's my pleasure to welcome you virtually in London, virtually at City University, but even although it's very in this unusual format, we still are very warm and happy and privileged to welcome TGN in our walls or in our rooms, partly because there's been long-standing cooperation and collaboration between TGN members and some of our staff at City, but also it is a great privilege to be part of this great initiative and the organization that put tax justice, along with the various issues from political stability to money laundering, criminal underworld to human rights this year, very much centrally on the agenda of not only civil society, but increasingly policymakers. Speaking of which, a few months ago, I was woken up quite early in the morning by a very nervous Ronen, who happens to be my husband, so he had a place next to me in the morning for legitimate reasons, who was very agitated and confessed that Biden just canceled my work forever. I said, you know what? I think your fears are premature, and continued to sleep in that early hour of the morning. I think I was proven right already, but the initiative of Biden's global taxation on corporations, just in some way, it's a great compliment to the work of TGN and your sister institutions and all the academics and activists and specialists who work with you. But also it's a call for just how important, probably even more important than ever, your work is now that the issue of global taxation, in some way global tax justice, is in the hands of political elite of whichever persuasion, to be honest. But it seems that you're not unneeded, but moreover you're needed even more to guide, inform, enlighten, and look for inevitable cracks in the process that is going to unfold in the wake of this particular crisis. Of course, tax justice was put on the public agenda very much in the wake of 2007-2009 financial crisis, when suddenly a lot of even advanced capitalist societies realized that in time of austerity, when public purses were squeezed, private and corporate wealth was revealed to be very footloose and to be looking for evasion and avoidance. I think, although the crisis today is apparently of different origin, there is a danger that in the landscape of global challenges of post-COVID recovery, taxation will get lost or will get marginalized in face of other important but routine challenges of policymaking and recovery. One of the issues that Prem already raised is, of course, continuing inequality that some institutions now call a K-shaped way into post-COVID recovery. And the letter K is supposed to describe the disjointedness and increasing polarization between those on top, and that includes individual organizations, corporations, but also countries and perhaps regions, and those who are lingering on the lower branch of the letter K. So I very much wish you all the best luck today for your future inspiration, good spirit, fantastic colleagues, and City University, City Park. I am the outgoing director, but my colleagues will pick up the chariot. We'll be always very happy to work and host you here in London. And I hope next time it will be not a virtual Zoom meeting, but very much an in-person event here in London. Thank you very much. And good luck. Bon voyage for the 2 days.
Hello?
Hello. You're live, Jeannie.
Okay, thank you. Warmest greetings of solidarity. It's an honor and pleasure for the Tax and Gender Working Group of the Global Alliance for Tax Justice to be one of the co-organizers of this important and very timely conference. At this conjuncture of multiple crises in which all our human rights and the safety and future of the planet itself face threats or are at risk, there is also the opportunity, an imperative even, to push forward with resoluteness and ambition a transformative agenda that places people and the planet at the center. And the key component of such agenda is tax justice anchored on the 4 Rs: revenue, redistribution, repricing, and representation to build healthier democratic processes. Framed around these 4 Rs, tax justice is very simply a feminist agenda. And just for emphasis, I cite here 2 points, please. On the matter, for example, of raising revenues for public services, we all know that women and the poor bear the brunt of the crisis of underfunding of public health systems and other essential services, especially given the fact that women are in the front lines of all care work, paid and unpaid. Redistributive justice, which lies at the heart of tax justice, is a long-standing and core demand of women and women's rights advocates, especially in the face of extreme and persisting inequalities, multiple and intersecting layers of discrimination. Close to our hearts is the urgent tax justice agenda of correcting the deep regressivity and gender biases in tax systems and policies. 5 years ago, the first global convening for tax justice for women's rights was held in Bogota, Colombia, where the Bogota Declaration for Tax Justice for Women's Rights was formulated. The declaration was released publicly in December that year to commemorate International Human Rights Day. And I'd like to recall what the declaration said. It called attention to the realities faced by women across the world, that too often women's voices go unheard in the policy debates dominated by global capital, as national governments accommodate corporate demands for tax incentives. The rights to land, water, public services, and government subsidies are increasingly neglected, and women's demands that corporations be taxed fairly are not heard. That the mantra of taxing for growth, as promoted by the World Bank, the IMF, the OECD, and the EU, has been accompanied by a basic formula for tax cuts for growth. And that in high countries, policies has been falling tax ratios and literally permanent government austerities. And that in low-income countries, the result has been increasing reliance on gender and income regressive VAT and commodity taxes that are particularly burdensome for those without economic security. And that the end result of taxing for growth regimes has been the increasing concentration of incomes and wealth in the hands of small numbers of very wealthy individuals and of large corporations. Growing income inequalities between the global north and south, between the rich and everyone else, and between women and men have reached crisis levels in countries at every level of development. In the past year since then, the Tax and Gender Working Group of the Global Alliance, of which the TGN has been a very active member, was thus challenged to help build and sustain the momentum of global advocacy for tax justice for women's rights, sharing knowledge, building alliances, engaging policy spaces, working with grassroots movements, reimagining tax systems and policies, and very simply thinking about how to make taxes work for women's rights. We envision, and I quote from the working group's advocacy strategy, the universal adoption of a feminist tax system which promotes gender, social, and economic equality, and which also resources the full realization of women's human rights and substantive gender equality. A new and alternative tax system that dismantles existing international tax practices that are outdated, opaque, gender-blind, racialized, and work for the distinct benefit of a small elite who are predominantly white men. A tax system that recognizes and redresses the inherent gender biases in the international tax architecture. And a tax system that seeks to resource not only substantive gender equality, but also redistributes resources to address a broad range of intersecting inequalities that have continued to marginalize and discriminate against many groups of people. The Bogota Declaration in 2017, a source of inspiration for many members of the working group, foretold of the worsening of inequalities years before the COVID pandemic struck. In 2020, now known as the year of COVID-19, and within 2 months of widespread lockdowns across the world, the working group brought together and worked with other women's groups, initiated a series of online consultations to bring women together, assess the situation, tell stories, reflect, heal, and strategize together. And from what we heard, saw, and experienced ourselves, we learned that the pandemic doesn't discriminate, but intersecting systems of oppression do. Today, more than a year since COVID-19 struck, we continue to witness the pandemic's direct and indirect effects on lives and livelihoods. We've heard from our speakers. We saw how it exposed the fundamental flaws of the international financial system, the inherent weaknesses of macroeconomic policies, including tax policies that are doomed to fail, and the glaring inequalities and power imbalances in decision-making around these policies. We witnessed too how policymakers, far from using the crisis as an opportunity to learn lessons from the past and to reimagine boldly, to plan ambitiously with compassion, sensitivity, and unwavering commitment to human rights, to begin rebuilding with a thoroughgoing transformative agenda. But instead of all that, or far from that, we see more of the same agendas, the same privileging of profit-driven interests of corporations in macroeconomic policies, even in so-called economic recovery or stimulus packages. This conference rightly reiterates the centrality of rights and justice and the role that taxation can play or should play. We commend the Tax Justice Network for spearheading this initiative to bring knowledge, insights, wisdom from experts, thought leaders, practitioners from different parts of the world. It's a very exciting and productive process, and we are delighted to be part of it. Thank you.